Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings, the card game. And I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride.
And today we're excited to have a spoiler card again, just like we did recently. This is from the brand new unreleased adventure pack, Mount Gundabad, or at least that's what it's being advertised. This is the lore unique character, unique ally, Gaffer Gamgee. So that's the dad of Sam Gamgee. And it's a 2-cost ally with 1 will, 1 attack, 0 defense, and 1 hit point. But the reason why you're going to play this guy is his combat action, which allows you to bring Gaffer Gamgee back into your hand. And what that does is it allows, and then you choose an enemy, and that enemy, as long as it has a higher threat than your engagement caused, can't attack. So it's kind of like a feint or feigned voices, but for a Hobbit deck specifically. Or it doesn't even have to be for a Hobbit deck. It just has to be this person. So it's kind of a all-around good card. And so I kind of likened it to Hobbit sense for a character. Because it's a Hobbit, but it doesn't really have to go in a Hobbit deck. Like that's the thing about this. So, Grant, what's your first take on Gaffer Gamgee?
I like it. I mean, you've got no real way of cancelling attacks within the lore sphere. So, other than stuff like sort of, as you said, Hobbit Sense, which is a neutral card. So
Hobbit Sense requires you to have hobbits, though.
Yes, it does.
Right. So
this is basically, like you said, a feint. I mean, yes, it's going to cost you 2 lore resources each turn to use that ability. But if you've got, say, Tom Cotton and, say, another lore ally, another lore hero, you can pay for him straight away. Mm-hmm. And you've still got 1 resource left over. And he gets that +1 attack boost, +2 attack boost from Tom Cotton. So
right, and the attack, or sorry, Tom Cotton makes it so that you don't have to have any matching. So you don't even need a lore Hobbit. You don't even need a lore hero at all.
No, you don't. For the first Hobbit you play.
Right.
And I like the idea of Gaffer. He's sending the Black Rider on his way when he's looking for Frodo. So it's quite thematic. I wish this had come out with the Black Riders set, because this is where it is in the books. So I like it in that sense. It's very thematic. It's got a lot of potential. Couple that with like take no notice and what have you, and you've got no enemies whatsoever engaging you.
Yeah, what I like about this is, like Hobbit Sense, I guess Hobbit Sense is good as a panic button, right? Because it's a neutral card, and as long as you control hobbits, you basically skip the combat phase. You can't attack, or there's nobody can attack anywhere. You can't attack them, they can't attack you. This is way better. For the same cost, you can neutralize an enemy that's engaged with you and still try to kill it. And there's many times when I'm running my Hobbit deck where, it's a pain in the neck because I'll have to use Sam to defend, but Sam also happens to be my best
offensive weapon.
My best offensive weapon. And so then I have to figure out a way to ready him or fast hitch or something, and then it becomes a pain in the neck. But the power of this card, I think it's deceptive. It has that Hobbit trait, but it doesn't say if you control any hobbits or anything. It's really just a lore feint. Like that, like everything, like Feign Voices requires you to bring a Sylvan back into your hand. This doesn't require you to do anything except for bring him back into your hand. Yes, he's unique, so you can't necessarily have 3 or 4 of these guys out there. Like, you can't do that, and you wouldn't ever want to Sword Thane him. So, because you bring him back into your hand. But the idea of a character being able to cancel an attack or not make an attack is awesome, and you get to choose. You get to choose which guy, because it's a combat action, and there's an action window right before you decide who's going to defend what attack. And so, because the action that the player gets to make is to exhaust the character to defend. So you can wait until all the shadow cards are dealt, and then you can say, well, let me do this. You can peek at the shadow cards because it's lore, and lore does a lot of those scrying effects. And so there's a lot of things. And then you can say, well, I'm going to cancel this attack because I don't want to deal with that shadow card. Or you could say, I'm going to cancel that attack because I don't because I don't want to deal with that enemy that's going to attack for, 4 or 5 or whatever, as long as it's not immune to player card effects. So I think that this guy is super, super versatile. Like, this guy is really good, and I agree, he's really thematic.
Yeah. Like I say, the only downside is I think that cost is going to eat up a lot of resources for that one sphere. So unless you've got like the necklace of Girion out, so you can start paying for those cards, I can see that definitely eat into a lot of resources if you're pulling it out each turn to do that.
Right, and that's the thing that I can't. Like, however you're going to resource accelerate, whether it's, Lord Denethor at the beginning of the game, or it's, it's a Steward of Gondor, old tried and true, that sort of thing. The necklace of Girion Theodred, which allows you to put a resource on anybody. I think the power of this card is, yes, he's a hobbit, but he doesn't run in a hobbit deck. That's the thing that I can't, that you have to wrap your brain around, is that don't let the trait fool you. Don't let the fact that he's a hobbit limit you to using him in a hobbit deck. That's not what we're saying here. Yeah,
I'd agree with that. He doesn't need to be running a hobbit deck. He doesn't need to be running any sort of deck like that. But I would suggest that you have some sort of resource acceleration if you plan to use him as a feint. A one-stop emergency button, yeah, no problem. But as far as if you're using it consecutively, you're going to need either Steward of Gondor or the Necklace of Girion just to get that added resource boost that you're going to need.
Sneak attack him into play.
Sneak attack could work. I've got word of it. I hadn't thought about that one.
He's going to come back into your hand anyways, right? So sneak attack him in the combat phase, bring him back and cancel the attack. Now you're just paying 1 in its leadership. And then you can use him 6 times. And then if you have the Tome of Atanatar, whatever the record is, that's you can use him 9 times. For 2 costs, he's actually correctly costed. That's 3 stats. He's got 1 will, 1 attack, which is kind of interesting. He's got no defense, because I assume his defense comes in that you can have him do something. So here, is there an action window between each combat?
Right, there should be another bottle in the cupboard.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? Between each enemy attack, is there an action window between each enemy attack? I think so, right?
Yes, there is.
So if you have him in play, you can bring him back into your hand. Then you can sneak attack him, and you can actually, as many sneak attacks as you have or can afford, you can actually do this, and then you could play the Tome of Atanatar if you have it. Like, you could literally, with this guy, you can make each enemy that you're engaged with, as long as it's not immune to player card effects, not attack you. Now, there's some enemies, of course, you wouldn't want to use it, but if I'm Hunters from Mordor, and I think there's 4 in that encounter deck, we're talking, we have some pretty serious stuff out there, so to be able to attack, or if 2 of them come out and you have 3 clues on your heroes, like, that's ridiculous. So, you can pull them back into your hand, you can play the sneak attack, you can put them out, and then you can bring them back into your hand to cancel 2 attacks. You can use the Tome of Atanatar and then you've only really spent 2 leadership resources, because you're double cast. You've played the Tome of Atanatar in a round previous. You've played Gaffer Gamgee in a round previous, or whatever, and so you're only playing the 1 sneak attack, there, and then the 1 for the Tome of Atanatar to recur the sneak attack. So you could cancel 2 attacks for 2 leadership. I don't know, like, I'm just trying to figure out ways to tech him into a deck that makes sense, and that works all the time. And if you're running Steward of Gondor leadership, or you're running Sam, like his son, that's awesome. Like, I don't know, like, this card to me just seems like a really great fit, and like you said, it's really thematic.
Yeah. So we're gonna ring them then, David.
Okay, let's try it.
Okay, so 1 ring being the 1 card to rule them all, and 10 being bike spokes, as our friends from Cardboard of the Rings like to say. How would you ring Gaffer Gamgee?
So I think he's a great card, and I think for the audience out there, if there's a card that I'm not drawn to use, or that I haven't used, I usually start at a 5 and then go down. Or I guess I go closer to 10 if I'm not drawn to use him. If I am drawn to use him but just haven't had a chance, then I'm usually going toward a 1. Now, obviously, I can't use this card. It's not released yet, or at least as of the recording of the episode. So my internal scientist has to say that, let's start at a 5. But because I think he's so versatile, I think I have to go. I'm really drawn to using this guy for a lot of different deck types. This is crazy good for Hobbit deck, or just for a mono lore deck. So the only thing that I think is he just does a lot of fodder for archery, or for doing 1 point for every ally you control. Like, there's a lot of ways to get rid of him that the encounter deck has. So in that regard, I don't think that he is he's not a 1. And I'm hesitant to give a 2, so I'm between a 2 and a 3. So because I haven't played him, I'm gonna stay with a 3 just to see how he plays in a deck. But I'm gonna say a 3 based on what I see. How about you, Grant? How would you ring him?
Me personally, I would ring him at a 4. I like the ability. I like the fact that he doesn't have to just go in a Hobbit deck. I overall like his design, and he's very thematic for what he does. So I'm giving him 4 rings. So why don't you join me next time when we discuss another card?
Have a good day.